Hey, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, here to talk about Soldiers in Postmen's Uniforms, the newest game in David Thompson's Valiant Defender series. No disclaimer for this one, I received no compensation for my Kickstarter coverage, and I actually sent my prototype on to another reviewer. I was already a pretty big fan of the previous two titles in the series, Pavlov's House and Castle Itter. Does this new one innovate, or is it just more of the same? Let's find out. Let's start by talking about the great things in this game, and I'll begin with the stuff that is consistent with the entire series. First of all, I'll start with the core action and exhaustion mechanic. You can only take 4 actions on your turn, so they go really quick, and generally speaking, taking an action with one of your units will flip it over, and it'll take an entire separate action in a future turn to flip them back, and then you'll have to wait until another turn to actually use them again. So as you fight off the German attackers, desperately defending this Polish post office, you'll have entire areas of your defensive line run out of energy, and you'll just have to watch as the Germans advance further and further, even getting into the house. It's a simple action system that causes great tension. Also back from previous games in the series is the line of sight system, which is this really simple color-based one where if I'm on a green square, I can shoot any Germans that are on green circles. And once again, this feels so simple but so clever, it's really easy to figure out who can shoot who. But I also like how the different line of sights come into play with the different floors of the post office you're defending. The upper floors have the best line of sight over the whole battlefield, which makes logical sense, but they're also the ones the Germans target the most. They're also the ones who face the most artillery fire, so it's a nice kind of risk-reward choice in how you put people in different spots to stop the Germans as they advance. Now, getting to things that are fully new in Soldiers and Postmen's Uniforms, I really like the way the attack waves are structured. You face 3 increasingly difficult German assaults, and each of them has its own unique deck of activation cards. And the thing I really love about this is that if you can survive a wave, barely make it, you get a breather because almost all the German units disappear, all of your units become unexhausted, so you have this great crescendo of tension, then a little bit of rest, and then an even higher crescendo, a little bit of rest, just over and over, and it really gives the game this great epic feeling overall. And adding to that feeling is another new mechanic in the series, where you don't lose the game when German soldiers enter your building, which is how it worked in Pavlov's House and Castle Itter. Instead, they actually go floor to floor trying to clear out and murder your defenders, and you have to throw grenades at them and you can blow yourself up. It's such a desperate feeling, which for me at least was exciting and tense. And just to ramp that tension up even one level more, the resource management and allocation in this game is really cool. You've got the grenades I mentioned, ammunition, weapons, and your defenders themselves, and you don't get any more of any of these things, so every time the Germans push too far and you have to use a bunch of resources to hurl them back, you're putting yourself in that much more of a bind for the next wave. So trying to kind of manage how much you use each time they attack, it's just a great balancing act. Now, all those good things being said, there are certainly some things you might want to be concerned about based on your play preferences. First of all, the theme here is pretty bleak. Unlike Pavlov's House and Castle Itter, which could be considered victories, this one was an out-and-out failure. The building got set on fire and basically everyone got captured or killed. Second, if you hate dice rolling, you might want to avoid this one because all of your attacks involve dice, and also where the Germans spawn is dice dependent, and it can go really swingy and make the entire battlefield different. Now, I like that. I think it adds more variety, and there are so many rolls that it tends to balance out, but if you hate luck in games, this might not be for you. Third, out of the 3 games in the Valiant Defenders series, I think this one is the most intimidating at the start. Because Pavlov's House, you just had 3 people in the building. Castle Itter, you place the people as you activate them. But here you have a ton of defenders split among 3 floors, all these resources, and until you kind of play through your first game or two, it can feel really overwhelming just to know what to do on your turn. And finally, as much as I love the assault waves, they do make the game a bit more predictable and a bit less varied because the Germans are always going to come from the north in Wave 2, they're always going to come from the south in Wave 1. Now, where they spawn is random, and like I said, how your resources plan out will make the entire thing feel different each time you play, but it's not like a completely random thing like Germans will suddenly come from the east and they never did before. So overall, I think Soldiers and Postmen's Uniforms is great. David Thompson has done it again. It is such an exercise in tension and desperation, and at least for me, that was a really compelling experience, especially focused on this battle that I'd never heard of. Out of the series of 3 games, I still might give Castle Itter a bit of a nod because it's so much easier to set up and play right away. But this new one feels and plays very different, and I certainly think it would be fine to own all 3 of them. And all of them are among my favorite solo war games. Such a great system, I just love it. If you'd like to see a partial solo playthrough, click the link that just popped up. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.